The Siege of Leningrad was one of the most hard-fought battles in Germany's invasion of Russia. Its outcome was a turning point in Hitler's Eastern campaign and eventually led to the Allied conquest of Berlin. The city of Leningrad had been Russia's cultural capital for well over a century. Birthplace of the revolution and home of the famous Hermitage Museum, the city had served as Russia's capital before the October Revolution. During World War II, dark times fell upon the city. In the summer of 1941, Adolf Hitler was set on invading Russia through Operation Barbarossa. The operation focused on three sections: Stalingrad in the south, Moscow in the center, and Leningrad at the north. After careful planning, the troops were sent into Russia. The Nazis quickly pushed their way through to Leningrad, past the badly prepared Russians, and by the fall of 1941 were beginning to encircle the city. The Nazis used a combination of panzer tanks and troops to encircle the city on the north, west, and south sides. Lake Ladoga served as the boundary on the east. The Germans cut off all supplies to the city while also bombing civilian targets. The Russians responded by setting up artillery right in the middle of the city, attempting to shoot down the planes. On the outskirts of the city, a deadly battle raged to break the siege. The Russians, although badly prepared, made use of their available tanks and anti-aircraft systems to try to push back the Germans, who were coming so close to Leningrad that the city's subway system could take a soldier to and from the front lines. The people of Leningrad were suffering severely due to the lack of supplies, cold winters, and bombings. Families were forced to donate what they had to the war effort. The daily rations of bread were very small, and inedible supplies were mixed into the bread to make it appear as if there were more. Death, due to starvation as well as the cold winters and bombings, was a common sight throughout the city. The lone source of supplies were the trucks that could cross the frozen Lake Ladoga in the winter. This passage is called the Road of Life, and it was constantly bombed by the Nazis, which made it very dangerous to use.
Когда началась война, я был еще совсем маленький, мне был только исполнился год. Детей отнимали, а меня спрятали. Говорили, что отвезут детей в Пушкин, и мы скоро победим. Но в город Пушкин пришли немцы под Ленинградом, и их там всех детей расстреляли. А мы выбирались 4 с лишним месяца из Ленинграда. Мама мне рассказывала, что мы ехали на разных поездах. Немцы бомбили железные дороги и наши эшелоны, и поэтому я чуть не умер. А мои родственники, бабушка, дедушка и папа остались в Ленинграде в блокаде. Они все погибли, потому что еды совершенно не было. Не было ни воды, ни электричества, ни тепла. Покойников заворачивали в простыни и выносили прямо на улицу. А потом ездили машины, которые собирали целые машины большие, и их куда-то увезли. Говорят, что на кладбище. В общем, тяжелое было время. Не дай бог кому-нибудь все это пережить.
As the siege raged on for more than 2 years, more troops were needed to defend the city against the Germans. Thousands of men as young as 16 were drafted from within the city to fight in the suburbs. These men were badly armed, and thousands were sent to the front lines without rifles to act as human shields. The constant bombings destroyed the beautiful architecture of the city, angering the Russian population even more. The priceless paintings of the world-famous Hermitage Museum were evacuated to other parts of Russia by means of the Road of Life. The Russian troops were finally able to break the siege on January 27, 1944, 872 days after it began. More than 600,000 civilians were killed during the siege, and over 1 million members of the Russian army were killed, captured, or reported missing. After the siege, the Russians pushed the Germans back, meeting up with the armies that defended Moscow and Stalingrad. The combined effort pushed the Nazis out of Russia and all the way back to Berlin. The siege is still remembered by the people of Leningrad, now called St. Petersburg, as a very dark yet heroic time in the city's history.